And? Anything else? Oh, good idea, Phoenix.
The First Good Deed by 𝙼𝙲𝙻𝚾𝙻. David Corcoran stumbled a few steps as he made his way back to his digs in the small country town of 𝙻𝙻. He was feeling very satisfied with himself. As a fly-in miner on a new outback lithium mine, he made a large stack of money from this backwater town, and he'd only spent a minuscule portion to get satisfyingly drunk tonight. The best part of his evening was kicking the living daylights out of a down-and-out local who was begging for money. There were a lot of down-and-out locals since the mine opened. The company had taken over most of the housing and kicked a lot of the locals to the street to make room for their workers. Lazy good-for-nothings, David thought to himself. He didn't have much regard for other people in general. He was the fully-fledged product of the gradual degeneration of the Homo sapiens ape, from a social species of animal into an antisocial, personality-disordered animal. He enjoyed the suffering of others, especially if he was the cause of that suffering. He lied as easily as breathing, stole, threatened and broke bones for the sheer pleasure of the sound of both the break and the screaming. His favorite part, though, was to see the pre-beating fear in his victim's eyes. He was a sadistic animal, like a large number of his species. As he wove his way, singing an out-of-tune song along the footpath towards his company-supplied house, the eyes of others marked his progress. A sugar glider and her babies, koalas, a group of cats having a midnight social consortium, and an owl. David came to a halt as 3 Aboriginal children of about 13 to 16 years of age suddenly appeared in front of him. 2 girls and an older boy. He didn't know, nor would he care to know, that these were the children of the single mother that had been thrown to the street to give him his place of residence during the intermittent months he worked in the mine. "What do you think you're doing standing in my way?" he drawled. "I'll bloody deck ya." Quick as lightning, the oldest boy flicked something from his hand towards David's torso, where it pierced the flesh under his ribcage and stuck fast. "Ah, you bloody little skid marks," he yelled as he clutched the slender object. "I'm gonna bloody kill you, you little bastards." He looked down to pull the bone-white dart from his chest. It wasn't that big and it didn't go deep. He threw it to the ground, and in an instant he was ready to deliver his revenge. He looked up and lunged forward to where the boy had been. He was gone. They were all gone. The street was well lit, but there was not a shadow of movement to be seen. "Yeah, you run and hide," he yelled. "I'm coming for ya." With that he jogged to the middle of the road and up the street a ways, peering into the shadows trying to locate his new victims. The sliver of bone, the tip of which was now blood red under the streetlight's glow, lay in the gutter as though it were just another bit of detritus. Through capillary action, David's blood siphoned along strange markings that had been delicately etched into its length. Come out, wherever you are. Uncle Dave's got a little present for ya." With that he reached into his back pocket, withdrew and opened a dangerous-looking pocket-knife blade. There was the sound of a pot plant being knocked to the ground, and the movement of shadows along the driveway of an old timber cottage. "Now I've got ya," he drawled, and he dashed for the disappearing shadows with the sobriety provided by hate-fueled adrenaline. He ran along the side of the house and into its backyard. Nothing. No, he could hear running footsteps over the fence. And there they were, running through the long grass of a disused field behind the house. Jumping the fence, he was after them. "Get back here, you little bastards, I'm gonna cut you up," he yelled as he jogged after them. But as he said this, a sudden stabbing pain caused him to stumble and double over, clutching his gut and wincing, eyes shut, in agony. Angry expletives spewed from his mouth. The memory of the kebab he had at the pub sprang back into his mind. He opened his eyes for a moment and was given a shock to see the children standing around him, just out of reach, in a circle. They were quietly chanting words he couldn't make out. It was in their tribal nation's language. Suddenly, the pain shot through his bones. He looked at his arms and hands. They were elongating, and sprouting fur. Then he noticed the full moon behind the boy, and a deranged idea sprang into his beer-addled mind. He laughed. "More fool you if you've put a werewolf curse on me. I'm going to tear you little bastards to pieces." His nose began to elongate into a furry snout, and then he began to shrink. The pain subsided. He looked up at the towering giants above him. He attempted to hurl an expletive-laden rant, but all that came out was a series of squeaky sounds from his twitching antechinous snout. The giants laughed, then turned away and headed back to town. Panic gripped David, the little native mouse. They had to turn him back. They couldn't just leave him like this. He scurried swiftly after the young sorcerers, his fur shimmering in the moonlight as he hurtled through and over the tussock grass, trying to catch their attention. The children turned and watched the smooth and silent flight of the owl as it swooped in, clutched the tiny marsupial in its talons, and flew away to its nest to feed its chicks. Some order had been restored to the world, as David did the first good deed of his selfish life and provided nourishment for native fauna.